Howdy, y'all. I'm Susan Fennema. I'm the Chaos Eradicating Officer from Beyond the Chaos, and welcome to Texas. I am new to the Zojo community, so I wanted to share a little bit about myself. I am a non-technical, non-certified project manager, but I love technology. I am a Texan, hence I get to say the howdy part, and a Texas A&M Aggie, class of '88. Whoop! I'm a home chef, and this is when I start getting into some project management as part of my personal life that plays in. I actually develop spreadsheets for my dinner parties. You know, if you're going to have 12 people in your 800 square foot apartment to serve a 7-course meal, and you think you're going to do it without project management, you're fooling yourselves. Now, the other thing I want to do, and I'm going to hand out Smarties here because you can't bring up candy at a conference and not hand them out. It's Halloween month anyway, and you'll see I have a little trick-or-treat bag, so here's some treats to pass around while I share some tricks with you on project management. But I eat Smarties by splitting them out into color and then in a graph format by height, and then I eat them in twos. So it's a little bit of OCD, but I haven't actually been diagnosed with it. I am the wife of a mechanic, the mother of a dog and 2 cats, so I have some household things that I have to take care of. Like I think we were talking last night, I have to be able to jumpstart a car. I can't act like I don't know how to do that. Big thing is that I'm a daughter of an entrepreneur, and I love small business. I worked in 2 big companies. The bureaucracy killed me. And part of what people fight with project management is they think it's a layer of bureaucracy that you're putting on things. So my goal is to always keep it simple, keep it basic, and don't overwhelm the situation. So enough about me. I want to know about you guys. How many of you are in-house developers? You work for a company? Show of hands. Oh, that's a lot more than I thought. How many of you are one-person business, you're an independent developer? Okay, we're gonna be good split. And then the others, you own your own businesses, multiple subcontractors, that kind of thing working for you? Great. So how many of you struggle with finishing your project? Okay. Anybody who says they aren't is probably not telling the truth. What about managing the scope? Scope problems? All right. What about getting pulled in multiple directions, not knowing what to work on next? Oh, wow. Okay. This isn't surprising, you're not alone. There's a reason I'm asking these questions. Okay, and I've already asked this one really, if you work with subcontractors, do any of you have, though, team members that you want to delegate to that you don't know how to? All right. All of these things are going to help you get there. What about a way to keep things organized, to get that clutter out of your head so you can focus on the task at hand? Only you? I don't believe that. All right. Do you waste time justifying the hours you've billed? Explaining to your client what you did, why it took that long, that kind of thing? I'll give you a little hint on that one. We're gonna talk a little bit about value pricing at the end and not billing your time, but that'll just be a little snippet, but it's coming at the end. So basically, is your business running you or are you running it? Are you letting it control you or are you taking charge of it? With some of the things I'm going to talk about today, we're going to get you more in charge of running your business. And if you are an in-house developer, these things can apply to you too. You're still working on projects. You still need to complete them. You do have in-house clients. So think about it from that perspective. So what's the root problem? All businesses have the same challenge. This isn't only development companies have this challenge. A catering company has these challenges. You want to be able to repeat your successes. And without reinventing the wheel, without figuring out how to do it again. And you want to avoid the disorganization that comes with that. So we do this by not adding bureaucracy, but by adding structure to what you do. Just a simple structure. Some basics of structure that you want to use in your business will be policies. Now, policy is really for multiple person companies. You don't need to write a policy for yourself that tells you what your rules are. If you have multiple people that you're working with, you want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, everybody knows what time the day starts, those kinds of things. It's a policy for multiple person teams. You will also have process and procedures that you want to follow. And these are going to be, these you can even use as an in-house person or as an independent developer. It doesn't require, multiple people, but it will help you be able to get them involved. You want to have some form of a project management process that you're following on a regular basis, a system. And with that will come a way to avoid the interruptions. Interruptions are going to happen. There's no way to prevent them, but how do you manage them? That's really what we're after here. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between these things, policy, process, and procedure. A policy is rules for multiple people. When's your vacation days? What do you do if you're sick? How do you handle travel? Those are policies. There's rules. They're rules. They're not really for negotiation. You're not putting judgment into them. Just how you want your business to run. A process is a system. It's how you do things so that you can do them over and over again. It might be how you want your receptionist to answer the phone. It might be how you want, if you're a catering company, how you want your wait staff to talk to the guests. Chick-fil-A, they always say, "My pleasure," when they're done serving you. That's a process that they've put into place. A procedure is a checklist. Think of it as an airplane taking off, right? The pilot needs to check off everything on the list. It's in front of them. These pilots do it every day. They know what it is, but it's written down. They check it off so that they can go quickly and not forget anything. That's what a procedure is for. So let's talk a little bit about processes. First, why are they needed? Main reason is to repeat your success. And everybody knows that you make mistakes when you're working in your business, when you're working on your software. You want to be able to do the same thing that led to success over and over and over again. And if you don't write it down, the next time it comes time, you're going to forget what that was. And you'll reinvent the wheel. So you'll go back and try again instead of knowing what to do. So stop reinventing the wheel. The other is the ability to delegate. Once you have written down a process of what order you go in, not that a monkey could do it, I'm not going to say it that way, but you can hand it over to somebody who's not you. You can keep running your business. You can keep developing software, but you can ask somebody else to please follow this process and execute this task and do it the way my vision has it, not the way somebody else's vision has it. It lets you help maintain that branding of your company even when other people are working, following the same methods that you want them to follow. I think there are minimum processes needed for businesses. Sales is definitely one. Following the same sales process, making sure that you're weeding out customers in an order so that you don't always get to the proposal and then cross your fingers and hope. And you don't know if you're going to hear back from them, and it's just out in space. If you're not asking people to do the same thing over again, you can't evaluate whether or not you like them. Are they going to work in the process that you want to follow? If you can do that early and you can get to a no earlier, you're cutting off, wasting all that extra time in your sales process. So sales process is definitely a process that I believe every business should have. The other is invoicing and getting paid. Not forgetting to bill your hours if you're doing that. Not forgetting to invoice on a regular basis. How do you take money? Do you always take ACH? Will you accept a check? All of those things are things to think about a process, and something that you can hand off to somebody else down the road. Even if you don't feel like you're ready to expand that now, once you get busier, that's something that you can hand off to somebody else if you have it written down. Projects is another big deal. The way to accomplish a big thing is to do all the little things that make it up. And those are the things that get in our way, that clutter our head. So if you don't have a project management process, how do you open a job? How do you have some general milestones with deadlines that your client understands and agrees to, and you're on the same page and they're not freaking out about what's going on? And closing a project. How do you close it? How do you end? A project has to end. It's part of the definition of it. Beginning, end, not going on forever. That's a maintenance agreement. Totally different thing. So there are some tools that can help you with this. And I'm going to ask you to repeat after me on this one. Email, not a project management tool. It's not. It's just not. If you're doing it that way, you're doing it wrong. And I can tell you that point blank. It is a way to get things lost, to make sure that nobody knows when something's due, to make sure things spiral out of scope. Budgets are going to get toppled, everything. Don't use your email as a project management tool. There are plenty of softwares out there. I'm sure you guys are smart enough. You can probably build your own for yourselves in Zojo if you want. But Basecamp is that's the one I like the most. And it's the one that I've used the most. It has a simple structure, similar to Zojo. It's a nice base that you can then put your process on top of and build out and build a structure to the way you want your project management to work. I always recommend, this is a big one, that you have weekly status meetings with your clients, depending on how long your project is. You know, if it's shorter, maybe you don't need that many, but making sure that they know, when is the next time I'm going to talk to you? Where are we in the process? What are the questions and answers that we might have to exchange? Here's a big reason for that. It's going to prevent interruptions. If they know they're going to talk to you on Monday, they're not going to call you Thursday and interrupt your day. They're not going to email you over the weekend with details that they could share with you at your status meeting. They're going to know in their head, oh, we're talking on Monday, I'll bring it up then. It serves two purposes there. Another tool, and people don't think of it as a tool in a project management process, is your proposal. How you are defining the scope, the budget, and the timeline in your proposal is part of how you're going to manage your project. So making sure that's clear and the client is aware of it up front is very important. Now, I'm going to go into some project management tips now if you're using Basecamp as an example, as your software. Each client needs its own project. Don't try to get the cheap version and only get the one and try to do it all in one thing. Each client needs its own project. You can interact with your clients through these kinds of softwares. And you want to keep that confidentiality. You want them to know it's only us in here, nobody else can get in here. And that keeps all of your things for them in one central place. The other is to make sure that any to-dos that you're setting up have dates. If you just put a whole list of to-dos together, all you're doing is creating a list of dreams. You only have a dream, or I'm sorry, you only have a goal when you have a deadline. Otherwise, you just have a dream. So put some times on those things, set some deadlines. They also need a person responsible for them. If nobody knows it's due on this date or that they're responsible for it, then it's going to be very hard for them to meet that expectation. So make sure that you have a person and a date assigned. One suggestion I have too, because as developers, I know that one step that's a milestone that your clients might like to see, like testing starts this day, right? We're going to test this day. There's your milestone for your client. Well, you've got a list this long, right, of all the things that have to do just to prep it for testing, not even about the development of the whole thing. This is an opportunity for you to set a milestone for that, set some subtasks, and those subtasks don't necessarily, you don't need to schedule and put a due date on every single one of those little things. That milestone is the important thing to remember. That's also the communication with your client so that they know what's going on. They can count on you for that. Lastly, and I'll recommend, not just because I do this, but even if it's not me, get a professional to help you set up your project management system. You guys would laugh at your clients if they said they were going to get a copy of Zojo and build it themselves. Get a professional to help. If you start with a good template and structure, you'll be a lot better at being able to execute it. All right, let's talk a little bit about milestone settings, or milestone setting. When you start the project, you want to start with when it's due, right? And build backwards for those milestones so that you know you can meet the date. Sometimes you might find that, wow, I kind of overshot that, right? How on earth are we going to accomplish all of this in this time frame? If you get to that point, don't freak out. Talk to your client, partner with them. You'll be amazed at when you talk to them up front and explain, listen, I think we're going to need 2 weeks longer than I expected, that they will be fine with it. If you tell them when it's due that you needed 2 more weeks, now they're mad. So keep that in mind. If there is no due date set from your proposal, for example, you can also build the other way. So you can look at, I couldn't start this project for 3 months. They knew that. I'll start scheduling from there and schedule out. The important thing is to get a schedule. I hope you're kind of getting that part. That's how you keep in scope. That's how you keep in budget, is to have a timeline. Meet your deadlines after you've set them, or communicate them in advance. Just like not ending the project on time, each of those little steps along the path will prevent you from ending your project on time if you don't talk about it. So make sure that if you get behind, hey, next week we're going to make this up. We're going to talk about it in the status meeting. Or we can't make it up. I'm sorry, we're not going to make next week's deadline. We need another week. If you do it again up front, you'll be amazed at how that partnership will work with your client. Include the major steps in your process. The one I think of the most is really testing. That's when you need your client's involvement the most. Make sure they're not on vacation that week. Go over that schedule with them on that first day. Make some modifications to it if need be, if they're going to be out of the office. If their family is going to be gone on a month-long vacation, maybe you want to push and do it a week earlier so they can test before they go. But partner with them in that first meeting, not only for the information and details you need to build your job, but also for how to make it a good experience for that client so that they know what's going on. So we've done this, right? It's the first thing that happens. Everything changes, right? As a service professional, it is your obligation to deliver a completed project that's in scope. You've talked about this with your client. You've agreed on a price or an estimated number of hours. You've agreed on a timeline. They know what they need for their business. If this project just runs forever and never finishes, they don't have anything. You didn't deliver them any value, no matter how many hours you've put in. It's your obligation to make them stop, to say, we'll come back and, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. we'll come back later and address those changes. Let's fulfill the scope we talked about first. Now, if it's a dramatic change, my company got bought. That's a pretty dramatic change. Then you want to stop. You want to reassess. Where are you? Let's replan this project. But unless it's that dramatic, hold it. Finish what you agreed upon and hold it for later. Consider the issues beyond your control, though, when you get this. I know there's a hurricane coming to Florida right now. That might be something that needs to modify your timeline. That's a change that nobody could control. So, but again, talk to your client about it. Don't just assume that they live in Florida, so they're not coming to work tomorrow. They very well could live on the East Coast, and they'll be there. Or I'm sorry, the West Coast of Florida, and they'll be there. So make sure that you're talking about the possibilities and changes that come up. I don't know how many of you have seen this. This is called the Triangle of Truth. It is a project management, historical, everybody usually uses it. But basically you have this triangle of quality that you're trying to create that you want to be a perfect triangle. All of these outside forces are coming to play on that quality triangle. Your scope that you defined, your timing that you have, and your resources. Now that can be money or people as far as the resources go. But all of those things pressure in and hold a perfect balance of this quality. If anything gets out of track, if your timeline gets really long, how many of you have waited for a client for 3 weeks to get back to you on something, and you forgot where you were? And then your quality suffers, right? Because you don't know where you are. Same thing if you're squishing it. You know, oh no, we got to do it faster. Okay, well, if you've got to do it faster, you're going to forget something. You'll overlook something. It won't be tested as well, all of those things. The timing affects it. The scope affects it. We started adding a whole bunch of things. We didn't extend the timeline. We didn't extend the price. We didn't add more people. So you end up with this weird shaped triangle, right? All out of whack. Think of that as how it is affecting your quality every time one of those factors changes. So learn this word, no. Say no, but we want to say it nice, right? You can't just yell no with an exclamation point to clients. We want to say it a nice way. How many of you heard this one as far as scope goes? Can't you just, isn't that always how it starts, right? Can't you just, no, anything that starts with that, the answer is no. All right, so set your client expectations from the beginning. The scope is the scope. It's a matter of fact. You wrote it down. You know what you agreed to. It's not an emotional issue. The scope is the scope. Your timeline is based on that scope. You built your timeline and your turnaround, everything based on what you agreed to do. Any changes affect your price. So there are your budgets. However you're billing, whether you're billing on a fixed price, a value price, an hourly rate, changes affect the price. You want to make sure that you're setting clear, that you're having clear communication with consequences to your clients. So if they don't get back to you for 3 weeks, that is your fault. You should tell them, if I don't hear back from you in a week, I'm going to assume that everything's good and we're moving forward. If you have a change later, that's going to cost you money. You can say it a little nicer than that. But if you put it in that framework that they understand that their delay causes issues, causes delays, causes them to pay more money, they're going to respond a little bit better. But if you don't set those if you don't have that clear communication with them up front, all right, I'll wait to hear back from you when you're ready. It can drag out forever. But the important thing is give your clients a way to dream. You also don't want to say no so much that they think they can't change anything, that they think they're stuck with what you've given them, that this is it, it's all I get. Give them a way to dream, and I do that by creating a wish list. If you're using Basecamp, you can actually make a to-do list called wish list and put the things on it. You can also handwrite it on a piece of paper if you're that old school. Does anyone still write on paper? So you can use that as a way to dream. And let me tell you some benefits of having this wish list. Your next project's already built. You already have a list of features that they want. You're ready to take the next step with your client. So more business comes out of it. And that will result in a change order, right? Now there's some ways to write these change orders. It can be individual tasks off that list if it's a big thing. It could be a group of them that naturally go together, or you could take all of them and make it a full-fledged project instead of a change order. But a change order has all the things in it that a proposal does: scope, timing, budget. So you're starting a new project. You finished the other one. That's what we were trying to get at. And now you're ready to start another one. Another method is a change bucket. A lot of times people use this for a maintenance or a support agreement. You know, when you don't know what the changes might be, but maybe you want to shore them up and have money on deposit, and that buys your availability. That you have their money, they're buying your availability to fix their upcoming things on the fly. I mean, none of us are going to look at a software that we developed in 5 years and say we're going to fix that for you for free. So you want to make sure that they understand that there's a longer support. And we also all know there's going to be bugs in custom software. So make sure that they know that this is how you're dealing with that you can have these long-term agreements. But when you do the money on deposit, you want to be available to them, okay? That means that when they call you, you can't say, I'm working on something, I'll get to you in 3 months. If you're doing it that way, you need to respond in a couple of days. Part of all of this is not only project managing your clients to their success, but you have to project manage yourself, your business, your life, so you can have a life, right? None of us want to be working 14, 15 hours a day. If you're using Basecamp, create a project for your business and start setting up all of the operations that go in there and put due dates in it. Remind yourself that, yeah, we send out Christmas cards and I need to be thinking about this in November. Not, oh no, it's December 15th, I haven't done that yet. Okay, so make that part of that as well. And if you do it in Basecamp and you're managing all of your other projects in Basecamp, it's gonna make you a natural to-do list forever so that you always know what's coming up. Other things I suggest are blocking out time on your calendar. Make a meeting with yourself. So if you have to write a proposal for a client, block out the 2 hours or however long you need, and make an appointment with yourself and make sure you sit down and do that. You can schedule that in the time of the day that it works best for you. So if you're more creative on proposals in the mornings, put it on your calendar at 9 a.m. If you write code better in the mornings, you can block time for coding. And don't let people take that time. Schedule your meetings for other times of the day. It also is an easy way to manage an interruption. If a client calls you and you answer the phone and you say, you know what, I'd love to talk to you, but I have a meeting right now. You're not really lying, you do. You said it with yourself, and you can then feel a little bit more comfortable in knowing the structure of your day and giving that answer. Another part of this is to look at your to-do list, your calendar for the next day, not at the beginning of the day, at the night before. So that when you come the next day, you're hitting the day running. You're not starting by figuring out what I'm supposed to do today. You're actually, you know what you gotta do. So when you're doing that, here's a big one, and it's probably a big one for everyone in the room. Be realistic. Don't over Don't overpromise and underdeliver, even of your own time, even for your own internal deadlines. That's why you do it the night before. Reset it. It's a lot easier to say, this isn't that important. I can do that in 2 days. I'll just move that 2 days from now, than being overwhelmed in the morning and not even knowing what's going on. So make sure you're doing it the night before. So we've planned everything, right? It's going to be interrupted. Dwight Eisenhower said, in preparing for battle, I have always found that plans are useless, but planning is imperative. He planned one of the things that I can't even imagine planning D-Day, and they moved it because of weather. Can you imagine? And that's why you have all the planning done, is because then you know what you have to move. You know what you have to change. It's a lot easier to decide what can wait if you already have the plan. What you have to change if it's already there. So if you become overwhelmed, you also have the ability to go back to your list. I worked at an advertising agency for about 10 years, and I had a lot of young project managers that worked for me. They would come in and they'd be completely overwhelmed, and I'd say, great, show me your to-do list. What's on your docket? I don't even know. Okay, we'll go back to your office, sort that out, and then come talk to me. And every single time, they were fine. As soon as they got that list built out, they were fine. They knew what to do. So always go back to the list. When you're interrupted, knock out little things quickly. So if somebody asks you a question, don't write it on your to-do list to answer this question tomorrow. Answer the question. You've already been interrupted. That part's already done. So get the little things done. But I do mean little things. If the question is something that requires an hour of sitting down and explaining, then you want to take the next step of mitigating it. So you want to be able to say, hey, listen, I'm on deadline right now. I can't really talk about this right now. How about tomorrow at 2 o'clock? Or whatever time you can make in your schedule. This makes the person feel heard. It doesn't make them feel overlooked. And it now lets you get back to planning your day tomorrow with that meeting in it, instead of interrupting what you had scheduled to do today. So, what's the most common interruption? Come on. Phone? What about email? Email is a big one. And part of it is because none of us are very good at policing ourselves and turning it off. The phone as well. You have voicemail, right? In general, people in their heads subconsciously, if they send you an email, they expect to hear back within 3 or 4 hours. If they call you, they expect it to be immediate. If they text you, they expect it to be immediate. So you're really trying in email, by managing it better, to reduce the calls. So they're not going to call you if you respond to their email in a timely fashion. But you can't do that if you totally have let your email get out of whack. Schedule when you go through it, and this is also a good way to set expectations with your clients, is to even have an automatic response that always goes out that says, I check emails at 10, noon, and 2, whatever you decide, and I'll be back to you then. That's going to help avoid that, oh, they didn't get back to me fast enough, I'm going to call them and interrupt them. It's going to give you a little bit more leeway to answer that on a regular basis. As you're going through, oh, and remember, part of this is that you're not using your email to manage your project, so none of it's going to be that urgent. Remember, we're already setting that up differently. When you get your emails, and at those times that you're going to sort through them, remember that decision-making is the key to moving through them. Do it quickly and move forward. There are only 5 ways to mark emails. Respond to them, file them, junk them, which is probably half of what we all get now, flag them because there's something that takes a lot of thought, a lot of effort. Perhaps it's part of your sales process that you need to come back to, or delete them. So there's only 5. Those things you flag, they can go on your calendar to do a different day, or maybe you respond to everything you have to think of at a specific time. Empty your inbox after every review. Who has inbox 0 today? I got some people. How much of a relief is it, right? If you're working in this environment, email is no longer scary to you. It's not, oh no, I gotta open this and what's gonna happen. You're on top of it, you feel good. When you come in to check your email at those blocked times, it's manageable. You don't have 400, you have 4. Maybe not 4, not more than 40, all right? So that takes some of that clutter out of your head as well. One way to do this, I talked about setting up the automatic responses, but also schedule your outgoing emails. Probably none of us in this room have sent an email at 11 p.m. or worse, 3 a.m. when we shouldn't be working. And we've set an expectation with our clients that we're working in the middle of the night. The other thing you've told them is, I work on your stuff when I'm tired, okay? Be careful about that. That projects something. And here, how about this one? I've sent an email to my client at 11 and I'm signing off and going to bed, and they replied back. Now I'm in an email conversation with my client at 11 o'clock at night, not what I wanted. There are plenty of tools to schedule. Many of us are on Macs, although I saw a whole bunch of people on Windows too. There are plenty of tools. I use Mail Butler with Mac Mail to schedule mine. Just schedule the outgoing emails to go out at the next time that you had told everyone in your automatic email that you check messages. You don't have to not do it at 11 o'clock at night, although it'd probably be healthier for all of us not to. Schedule it to go out. And that expectation then set with your client that this really is, when I'm looking at it, it's gonna help you with the interruptions a lot. All right, so I told you earlier that one of the things that I was gonna talk about a little bit is value pricing. I worked for a value pricing guru for 6 years, and I watched it work. And it does work. And as an employee, it's great not to do timesheets. It's great not to spend that time 2 weeks later trying to figure out what you did and how many hours it was, because it's not a real measure anyway. Okay, so what is value pricing? It's prioritizing the outputs for your client versus the inputs of you. Okay, so what your client gets is more important than how long it takes you to do it. Nobody really cares how long it takes you to do it. And as experienced developers, you're faster at it, right? So you're making less money by the hour because you're better. And shouldn't they be paying more because you are? Because you know what the pitfalls are, you know how to avoid some of those things? Think about that as part of it. So the solution the client gets is their output. That's the thing that's saving them or making them money. They are not asking for something to be developed because they think it's fun. They need it for a financial reason to help their company. And that financial reason has monetary value, or else they wouldn't spend money to create it. So they need to be getting a return on their investment. And that's really what value pricing does, is the theory of it is that the developer or the business owner or the provider is capturing a small percentage of the overall ROI that the client is getting from it. There are some huge benefits for your business to this. One is no more time tracking. Imagine if you didn't care how long it took you to do things. That is not the, uh-oh, what happened? Can you all see over here? Okay. Imagine if you didn't have to worry about it. It doesn't matter how long it takes. That does not equate to, I miss my deadline. That's not the same thing. Duration is not the same as the input of how many hours. So no more time tracking. You don't have to mess with it. No more sending an invoice and ducking. No, please pay it. Please pay it. Don't ask me about it. I know it's a lot of hours. Please pay it. You don't have to do that anymore. Most value pricing projects are paid up front. So you get the full money before you even start. One of the benefits of that as well, your money conversation's out of the way. You're done talking about money, how many hours it's going to take, all those things. You don't have to have that conversation. You're left to develop a relationship with your client and focus on delivering the value that you agreed up front that they would get from the product that you're building for them. It also forces you very much to want your projects to stay in scope, right? It makes it a lot easier to say, I gave you this price based on these things. If something's got to give, I can't do that as part of this. That also doesn't mean you're really tough and you won't make little tweaks. Of course you'll make little tweaks. That's not the same thing as a change. If you're not sold on this, that's okay. I'm actually not here to convince all of you to change your business model. I'm not in that business. I'm just here to expose you to that. One way you can try, though, without getting into the sometimes invasive and uncomfortable Q&A that you have to have with a client before you've delivered or developed a relationship with them in value pricing, is to try a fixed price project. It's a good step. To be able to value price, you have to know what the value is, and that sometimes involves asking, are you going to lay off somebody? How much does that person make? These can be very intrusive questions, and for an inexperienced person doing it, it can feel very invasive, and it can feel awkward. And that's okay, everybody does start out that way. It will become more comfortable as you get there, and part of this transition, too, is changing your mindset from, I develop code, to I help businesses. I am a consultant helping a business improve their business. So it's a little bit of a philosophy change in the way that you think about your job as well. Yeah?
So you said value pricing typically is paid all up front. That's a hard nut to crack with a lot of businesses, because as a company, if I was hiring someone from the outside, I'd be happy to do it in increments, but I'd never pay for anything up front.
So that's something that you can negotiate. So you can ask with a value price, this is the amount it's going to cost to deliver the whole thing. We take 100% up front. Excuse me. And then now when they say that, you say, yeah, I can work that out with you. So we'll make 3 payments over, every 6 weeks. You can work that out.
Like buying a construction project, there are milestones. And when you achieve the milestones.
With a value price project, I would recommend not tying payment to milestones, because you're getting out of the philosophy of the money conversations out of the way. Now, as the client, you can still hold it if you don't feel progress has been made or anything like that. But so it gives the client that feeling, but I wouldn't tie it to a milestone. I would just tie it to a duration. I would say in 2 months it's this, and 2 more months it's this. And I would never, ever, ever tie it to the end, because that inspires your client to find bugs until the end of time so that you don't finish it. You want to finish it and deliver it without that being held over your head. Like I said, I am not the how you change your business to a value price business guru, but who I used to work for is. His name is Kirk Bowman. He owns a company called Art of Value. If you go to artofvalue.com, you will find tons of free resources. I think he has over 99 podcasts of how to do this, the philosophy of it, how to overcome. Tim's on 2 of them. So you'll be able to see, and his background is software development. So he has that in common, so it works for that. All right, I have a few things to recommend to you guys as far as software as a services, SaaS, that I have a whole blog post on this. I'll give you the link to that later of other things that can help, but I'm going to run through just a top few that can help you be more organized in your business. Basecamp is by far the #1 that I recommend. There are others. Teamwork is one that works. You can use Microsoft Project, but please don't ask me to help you if you're going to use that. I'm not interested. All right. The other is some sort of a CRM for your sales. I like Highrise. One of the things I like most about Basecamp and Highrise, they're owned by 37 Signals. I think actually Highrise is a branch of it, but their customer service is so amazing. If you have a question or something you just don't know how it works, they'll email you back within minutes. You can tweet to them, ask questions. They're very, very good at that, and that really can help you sometimes when you're trying to get over a hump. Another one that I totally recommend, if you're not using it, get it. It's called Grammarly. It's a plugin for Google Chrome. And it will spell check and grammar check anything you type into any window in your browser. Huge. It even helps with Facebook posts. I'm a grammar Nazi, so. Calendly is another one. This one, how many of you have had 25 emails back and forth finding out when people are available? Yeah, it's annoying. This one, my address is www.calendly.com/beyondthechaos/BTC. I send that out. People can see my calendar, but they cannot see what I'm doing. They just see openings. And it's in the windows that I permit. So you don't have to, if you only want kickoff calls or discovery meetings on Mondays between 9 and noon, you can set up that those are the only times available and send that link, a different link. It's really awesome to help you avoid all that back and forth. They can pick what works best for their schedule, and it converts the time zone. So if you're talking to someone in Australia and you're in Texas, you don't have to figure out, well, it's 17 hours, but was it yesterday or was it tomorrow? And you can get it done a lot easier. Here's a big one. HelloSign or Adobe Sign. I like both products equally. These are digital signature softwares. So when you're ready to get that proposal signed, client's ready to sign it, but they have to print it out, and they have to sign it with a pen, and they have to scan it back in, and they have to email it to you. I don't know about you, but when somebody's ready to pay me money, I want it to be easy for them, okay? This just lets them sign it online. It keeps a storage of all your proposals there, so you can go back to them. You can do your NDAs here as well, and other types of documents that you might need, customer agreements, those things. Most of you are probably using some sort of accounting software. QuickBooks Online, or QuickBooks used to stink. I opened it on the desktop and I'm like, I'm tech savvy. I don't know how to use this. QuickBooks Online, it works a lot better. You can also invoice through both QuickBooks Online and FreshBooks, and they give you ability to take credit cards, take PayPal, take ACH deposits, all those things. And if you are interested in more SaaS tools, you can go to my blog post, or you can listen to the podcast I did with Paul on the Zojo site. All right, so I'm going to take some questions. I think we have, okay, one question? Okay. All right, since you attended this session, I'm going to give you a killer offer, right? If you contact me before the end of October and mention code XDC2016, I will give you a free initial consultation on how to structure your project management process. It's usually about a $300 value. Can I take one question? Is there even one question? Okay, good. Oh, yes.
Have you ever, I remember something from the days I listened to Stephen Covey a lot. He talked about the difference between important and urgent. And he said urgent frequently masquerades as important. but it's not necessarily important.
Yes, so your question is really about his 4 quadrants. Your question is, do you work at the urgent things or do you work at the important things? Absolutely.
Where to draw the line?
Absolutely. What you do, the question is, how do you draw the line between what's urgent and what's important in your project management? And the way that you do that is you start to eliminate the urgent. If you're planning it, and you're sticking to those plans and you're having those meetings, it's amazing how much urgent stuff goes away. You might have it from time to time, but it's not going to be frantic, crazy all the time. And all right, thank you guys so much. I'm here if you have questions. I can talk to you later. Thank you.